Welcome to the Right to Reason podcast. I'm your host, Robert Stanley. This week, the Pentagon released multiple videos of UFOs. The videos show what appear to be unidentified flying objects rapidly moving while recorded by infrared cameras. Today, Skeptic Bret will be challenging the narrative of a Buddhist master concerning his experience of being visited by aliens.
It's the Right to Reason podcast.
The Pentagon releasing these videos of what they are calling unidentified aerial phenomena. They were filmed by some Navy pilots for the last 2 decades, and the Pentagon says that these videos are being released now to, quote, clear up any misconceptions after they were previously leaked, but that the objects remain unidentified. Former Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid welcomed the disclosure on Twitter, saying the U.S. needs to take a serious scientific look at this and any potential national security implications. Reid, whose home state of Nevada is, of course, the home of Area 51, also noted that this only scratches the surface of research and materials available.
I did have one very brief meeting on it, but people are saying they're seeing UFOs. Do I believe it? Not particularly.
Do you think you'd know if there were evidence of extraterrestrial?
Well, I think our great pilots would know. And some of them really see things that are a little bit different than in the past. So we're going to see.
I was at the White House with my family, and we were getting a tour, and Barack and Michelle and Sasha and Malia.
Nice.
And it's me and Jada and the kids, and we're walking through the White House. And the night before, Jaden had said to me, "Dad, I got to ask the president about the aliens, I was like, cool. Dude, no, it's not cool. No,
it is cool.
It's not cool. It's embarrassing.
You have to take that opportunity. He knows.
No, you don't.
Yeah,
because he's your son, so all you do is go, I'm sorry.
I was
but
like,
answer the question.
Jaden, do not ask the president. So we get into the situation room, and Jaden gets the look in his eyes, and he leans over, he says, "Dad, what's my punishment?" And I was like, Jaden, do not. So he looks, and, Barack is talking about this situation room, and Jaden says, "Excuse me, Mr. President." And I was like, "Hey, Barack, man, hey, listen, Jaden." And Barack said, "Don't tell me." And in perfect form, like, this is why he's the president, he stopped and looked at Jaden and said, "The aliens, right?" And I was like, "Oh, shoot." And he said, "Okay, I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of extraterrestrials, but I can tell you, if there had been a top secret meeting, and if there would have had to have been a discussion about it, it would have taken place in this room."
Oh!
And Jaden was like,
That's big.
Did you go through the secret files, the UFO documents? Because if I was president, that'd be the first thing I did.
It's funny. My daughters asked the very same question.
They did?
Yeah.
Would you be allowed to tell your daughters what was in those files?
No.
You would not?
No.
Now that you're out of office, you can do anything you want, right?
True, yeah. But I'm not telling you.
You're not telling You're not telling me what? Are you not telling me that you looked at them?
I'm not telling you nothing.
Are there really great secrets that you know that you can't share with people?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are. And you never write about them?
No.
Maybe at a time in your life that you're like, I'm 90, I'm going to do it.
No.
No, nothing. What if you were to get like a little like loopy, you get old and...
Start drinking again?
Start drinking again. Guillermo, get some tequila.
Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
I've been sitting Zen meditation since the age of 16. I'm watching QAnonymous. I mean, the whole thing with Rothschild and Pizzagate released control over the Looking Glass device. You guys have no idea.
The what now?
The Pinder is the main representative for the Alpha Draconian here on Earth. I figured that out after solving the Nazca lines. They're bending space-time. They're time travel. making bird-like calls. That's what they sound like. The Freemasons were gifted something called the Orion Cube. The Orion Cube is a quantum time viewing device. The Nazi Holocaust was actually an adrenochrome harvest in trade for technology. 12 days later, a gigantic pyramid-shaped craft appeared above the Pentagon. So cattle mutilation and human mutilation. We have 3 different human beings who have been mutilated. That's how the elite figured out, and knew about adrenochrome. The aliens showed them. Now, they would have killed me already, and for some reason they haven't yet.
Okay, maybe that's because there isn't a them. Just spitballing here.
This episode of the Right to Reason podcast is brought to you by our patrons and contributors like me. We have all recognized the value of the unrestrained marketplace of ideas and have decided to make a difference. You can make a difference too. Contribute at patreon.com/right and learn more about your right to reason at therighttoreason.com. Your activism is appreciated.
Ryushin Malone, you can find his content at theorionlines.com, and also my good friend Skeptic Bret. Happy to have you.
Fun to hear.
Yeah, I've tried to have you on the show so many times. I love all your content. There's 2 of them that you can look at if you're interested. Beliefs That Blind, B-L-I-N-D, beliefsthatblind.com. Also, he's got another podcast named Atheists on High. All 3 of those links, theorionlines.com, Beliefs That Blind, and Atheists on High, you can find in our show notes. Just scroll to the bottom and click that link. Gentlemen, I'm so happy to have you here today.
Great to be here. Thanks, Robert.
Yes, thank you, Robert.
Ryushin, I heard you on another podcast talking about an alien that kind of touched you with a big stick or some kind of technology device or something, and it hit your throat or something.
Yeah,
can you run us through that? And just to prepare yourself, Brett's a really nice guy, but you see in his name it's Skeptic Bret, so he might push back a little bit. But cool. I'm going to try to stay out of you guys' way. I really just want to hear the 2 of you discuss alien abductions and some ideas that you have about the Orion lines as well.
In 2002, I was visited by a gray alien in the middle of the night. It woke me up, and it appeared about 5 inches from my face. And when I opened my eyes, it was right there in front of my face, and I was paralyzed for about 5 minutes. At first, I was terrified. I've never encountered anything like that, especially with it being right in my face. And it had me paralyzed, and it wasn't like a waking dream or like a paralyzed dream. After about 5 minutes, it let me up, and it floated backward and then through the wall. After that experience, I dismissed it as a dream, or, there was nothing I could do with that, Yeah. I didn't even tell anyone. That was in 2002. And in 2017, I was sitting meditation while teaching Zen. I'm a Zen Buddhist teacher. And I was teaching up in Maine, and I was alone, sitting alone, when all of a sudden I felt a touch underneath my chin. And that touch lifted my head upward. And I looked down my nose, and I saw the black eyes in front of me. And I saw a being that was translucent. It was like see-through. Either was there technology, or there were other dimensional beings, or was some kind of invisibility technology, or dimensional phase-shifting technology. I don't know. It was about 3 feet tall. And suddenly, another being stepped around the right side of that being with an iron rod about 2 feet long, with a quarter collar at the end of this rod, and it placed it up against my neck. And it held it there for about 3 to 5 seconds, and then let go, stepped back behind the being, and disappeared. The being in front of me then dropped my head, stepped backwards, turned right, and disappeared. After that, I freaked. I didn't freak right there, but when I got home, I freaked out. I was like, they're fucking real. They're real. Oh my God. And yeah, it was crazy. I was like, this is nuts. I can't believe they're real. They're here. Oh my God. Started researching everything. I took everything I could possibly find off the internet. And for about 2 months, I was convinced that everything I had was real, until I started to realize, wait a minute, that's not real. That's not real. But this is real. And that's when I started, using the Buddhist questioning method, which is basically, is this real or not? Is this true? And I used that method to go through the evidence that I collected to determine whether or not this was real or not. And lo and behold, I discovered that, yes, indeed, they are real.
Okay.
And that the phenomenon is happening. And it led me down a path that was very dark. It was a very dark path.
Ryushin, I've got some pushback for you, as you would imagine.
Oh, of course. That's fine. I don't mind.
So this first encounter that you were describing in, what was that, 2002, you said?
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I hate to put it in such simple terms, and you seem very convinced of what you experienced, as most people would. But what you described is, I mean, definitionally, it is sleep paralysis. In that you would even feel as though what happened isn't sleep paralysis. And you would say, no, it was the alien that was keeping me from getting up. And it was so vivid and it was so real. It wasn't a waking dream. This was real. This actually happened. That's definitionally sleep paralysis. What do you have any pushback on that?
Yeah. From what I experienced, that's what's happened to me. It wasn't just sleep paralysis. This was a being in front of my nose, and that's what I experienced.
Okay.
You
can understand where I'm coming from. That's what people would say, even when it wasn't sleep paralysis. They feel exactly the same way. So that's why I'm having a hard time.
That's fine. From what other people think or say, it's not what they experienced. This is what I experienced.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not trying to dismiss that you had an experience. No. I certainly understand that.
Oh, of course. There's no proof or evidence that I have that it happened except for my work. Now, from all my other work, which is totally based on evidential, work, it has a lot of, backing up to my story that I'm claiming. Because of the evidence that I have.
But I mean that your other work, right?
Yes.
Does in fact in some way hinge off of these experiences, right?
Yes.
That without these, you probably wouldn't have been looking for any of that information. You wouldn't have been trying to crack any code or any of that.
Correct.
Okay.
If the aliens didn't come to me while I was sitting meditation, teaching Zen Buddhism, I wouldn't have even gotten involved.
Okay. It seems to me from the outside, like it's kind of a shaky foundation that's where everything stems from. And then from there, we build all this other stuff when, this first experience could have just in fact been sleep paralysis.
That's fine. Okay. I have nowhere else to, go off of.
Ryushin, you didn't think it was real at first either, right? It wasn't until the second occurrence.
Yes, that's right. I knew what happened. I remember it vividly. It happened. I was definitely. It didn't say anything to me. It held me, and I remember fighting it, going, "Let me up, let me up, let me up." In my mind, all I could move were my eyes, and I knew that that happened. I was, it wasn't a dream. It was not a dream, because I remember specifically watching it disappear through the wall, getting up and going into the bathroom and looking at my face.
Have you looked into what Bret's talking about? Where
sleep paralysis? Oh,
but
of course.
they'll often describe it as like a demon holding them down if they're real religious. You being Buddhist, you might not have had the same kind of like Christian indoctrination that Bret and I kind of might be familiar with, but lots of times they'll call it like a demon push me down. What it seemed like you were saying is you were still a little skeptical until the second appearance, and that to me is what's really fascinating. And I'll get out of you guys' hair. I'm just curious, what do you think he was doing? What do you think he was doing to your neck? Do you think he was implanting something?
Well, there's three possibilities. Either it was giving me something, taking something, or it was a placebo. I don't know. Okay. Either way, it doesn't really matter. That's not the foundation. It isn't. Because my own experiences are my own experiences, and can I prove any of that? No, except for my word. The foundation is actually me solving the Nazca lines. That's the foundation.
Okay. Well, how about this? So, okay, so before we get to that, I've got one more pushback, and then I've got a quick story that I want to tell you as well, and I want your reaction.
Okay.
So I'm sure that you're familiar with the tendency of people to see what it is that they're already kind of predisposed to see, right? Especially when we're talking about dreams or even in waking life. I mean, waking hallucinations happen all the time. Any research at all into the way that the human mind works and our field of vision will tell you that we're actually hallucinating most of our world at all times. So we have this tendency to project things into the world and see things the way that we want to see them. I wonder if you're familiar with, earlier alien sightings, especially in the United States, that those earlier sightings were more around mechanical beings, and there were robots that were coming down, and that's the type of stuff that people were reporting up until pop culture came up with the gray alien idea, and suddenly that's what everyone was seeing instead of the mechanical aliens. I wonder, have you considered at all that there is just a very strong pop culture influence in what it is that you may have experienced?
No.
Okay. I love the very direct no. That's terrific. That's a lot of fun. Okay.
No, these were real beings, and the evidence that I've collected is overwhelming.
Okay, so I have a quick story for you. So when I was about, I must have been about 9 years old. I had a growing lump in my throat for quite some time that was very painful. And I was worried about telling my parents anything about it because I was raised in a impoverished, conservative, Christian, hardcore right-wing type of home, which means there was no money for medical care. It had been getting very concerning to me, and one night I had what I will now call a dream. And in this dream, very much like what you said, there was a gray. Basically, I had been taken aboard a ship, and there were a couple of gray aliens that were looking over me kind of on an operating table. And they didn't say anything directly to me, but in my head, I sensed that what they were saying was that there was a cancer that was in my throat. And they used some sort of tool, whatever it was. I can't even really tell you exactly what the tool would have been that they used, but they pulled something out of my throat, and there's just this very dense white ball that they had pulled out of my throat. And they, like laser, whatever it was, put me back together, and I woke up in bed. Now, here's the thing. It was the middle of winter, and I woke up in bed, and the window was open, which I would not have done. At least I don't think I would have done. And I was on my bed. The bed was made, but I was laying in the wrong direction with my feet on the pillow at the head of the bed and my head where my feet would go at the end of the bed. I would say that that's a pretty intense experience. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I have
now, do I believe you? Yes.
That's weird because I don't believe me. I believe the dream. I believe the story that I just told you is what I experienced, but everything would suggest that, the fewest leaps in logic that you have to make sense of something is likely to make the most sense, right? It's Occam's razor.
Right.
I am not going to jump into, okay, now there are for sure aliens, A, and B, they care about the well-being of a 9-year-old boy enough to lift him up into their spacecraft to take out a tumor in his throat and then put him back into a made bed. And too many leaps of logic. What does make sense is fear. I was very afraid for my well-being and an incredibly vivid imagination along with some pop culture references. Bada bing, bada boom. There you go. A little bit of sleepwalking. You're done.
Right. Well, it's up to you. And that's the whole point. It's up to you to determine whether or not it was real or not. It's up to you to determine if it was real to you, then, what it did for you, which was cure, get rid of your cancer. And it's also, looking at the evidence. Are they here? Are they real? And the answer to that question is yes, they are. They're here. But why have they been secret? That's the question. Why have they been kept secret?
Well, that may be one of the questions. I think the one that we keep skipping over is, are they real and are they here? I mean, you had some experiences, personal ones. I had a very strange dream.
Well,
but I wouldn't say that any of that is definitive proof.
Right. No, it's the evidence that is the proof. And from what I've discovered by going through the evidence, that yes, they are in fact real. I mean, there's so much evidence. I have 4 different species. I've typed 12 different species from the internet, gentlemen. 12 different species I have typed.
Of aliens?
Of aliens from the internet. Now, if I can type 12 different species of alien beings from elsewhere, that means, from the internet, that means that there are as many different alien species as there are stars in the sky. Not only that, but they are here. They're coming here. They're visiting us. There's only one way to get here, and that's time travel. It's complicated. It's tricky. But yes, I've typed 12 different species. I have 4 different species walking around on video making bird-like calls. That's what they sound like. They make chirping noises.
Wait. You got video of aliens, and that's on your website?
Yeah, walking around making bird-like calls.
Wait, now, when you say video of aliens walking around making bird-like calls, do you mean that you have video of bird-like calls that you are saying is aliens, or do you have actual footage of aliens walking around?
I have actual footage of aliens walking around.
Well, I'm interested in seeing that.
And that comes from, well, you probably have seen it. It's just that you've been, people have been told, oh, it's not real, or your brain makes it not real because you don't have anyone standing there going, that's real. Yes, that's real. It's very complicated.
So if you could very easily say that it's my brain making it not real, what's to say that it isn't your brain making it real when it's not? How do we decide who's got the right train of thought here?
Sure. I was born at a Buddhist monastery. I've been sitting Zen meditation since the age of 16. Zen Buddhism is like the Marines of Buddhism. It's one of the hardest, it's the hardest training any human being can possibly go through. It's 7.5 hours of sitting meditation every day. And that's not including the sessions, which are done once a month for 15 hours to 18 hours for a week. It's very intensive practice, and it's the practice of sitting stillness. And once you start understanding, by doing this meditation, you start understanding the functionality of the mind. But it's not only that, it's, your intelligence level. You're intelligent enough to ask the question, is this true or not? Is this real? And from what I've discovered examining the evidence regarding aliens, yes, they are real. It's frightening. It's very frightening.
When you were talking about the video, I started looking at your website, and I saw one of the things. Sorry to cut you off, Brett.
Sure, that's fine.
But I saw one of the things you say. Pizzagate was real. They've been eating children at Fort Hood, Killeen, Texas, called Uncle Sam's Snuff Factory. So are you like one of those? What are they called? Help me out. The people that think like that there's like somebody within the deep state helping Trump.
No, they're fighting against the deep state.
Right. But there's like a secret group.
It's the lizard people.
Well,
there are the lizard people. They've been eating children.
I don't even know how to respond to that right now.
Like
eating.
Let's.
I know you don't. You're still trying to figure out if they're real or not. And I can tell you, yes, they are real. But
I'm not trying to figure that out. I kind of reject it outright, but I'm interested how you get there.
Yeah,
I'm interested how it is that your mind gets there. And I want to go on record here, by the way, that if at any point it feels like I'm trying to insult your intelligence, I'm not doing that. Any of the questions that I ask, I just ask a lot of questions. I don't take things very easily. I don't take them lying down. And for the record, I think that it takes an incredibly intelligent person to put together this, this story and all of these pieces that you've woven together. I think it takes a very, very high IQ to do something like that. I just disagree with the process, and I probably disagree with your conclusions, but it doesn't mean that I think you're stupid, for whatever that's worth.
Hey, that's cool with me, man. Whatever. Listen, most people think I'm crazy anyway, so honestly,
so it wouldn't bother you.
I don't have the luxury to give a fuck. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because I have so many people going, yeah, sure, looking at the evidence and then going, no. So I don't have time for that. I just don't have time.
It was QAnon. Have you heard of them?
Of course, yeah. I'm watching QAnonymous. I mean, the whole thing with Rothschild and Pizzagate released control over the Looking Glass device. You guys have no idea.
The what now?
That's right. The Looking Glass device.
Okay.
You know what that is?
No, what does it do?
No, I don't. I mean, well, first I have to accept the Rothschilds and Pizzagate and all that to even get to the Looking Glass device. So
right.
You're on your own right now.
The Looking Glass device is a quantum time viewing device, a temporal quantum time viewing device. It allows the viewer to see past, present, and future events. And this thing is being held at Area 51 at S4-2. So when Pizzagate happened, releasing Hillary Clinton's emails and John Podesta's emails, we realized that there was a pedophile code happening. That led us to Comet Ping Pong. Comet Ping Pong is owned and operated by James Elefantis. James Elefantis just so happens to be related to Lord Jacob Rothschild, a.k.a. the Pinder. The Pinder is the main representative for the Alpha Draconian here on Earth. I figured that out after solving the Nazca lines. Once I solved the Nazca lines and realized that the Orion group was real, that told me that the Alpha Draconians were real.
Okay, so so the Nazca lines are a big hinging point here, right?
Yeah, of course. They're the main point to all of this.
Okay, let's get
absolute proof. Yeah. Good.
Yeah, let's get to the Nazca lines then. I want to hear your solution there, and I want to hear what you have to say around it.
Okay. So the Nazca lines are hundreds of lines out in the middle of the desert. They span for 138 miles in the middle of the Nazca Peru Desert. They are accompanied by geoglyphs or pictograms of animals, birds, monkeys, whatever, which wasn't an interest to me. I mean, I found it fascinating that they were there. But I was more interested in the lines. What did the lines have to say? Well, it was tricky looking for the entire map of the lines. You go on Google and you search it, and you come up with pictures of, partial pictures of the lines, until I figured out that you have to type in the Nazca lines map in order to get the full map. Well, I printed out the map, and I circled the 3 main points, and then realized it was Orion. It took me a year and a week to get the correct configuration that I have now, which is as far as I can go. I mean, without a computer and better understanding of the stars, I can't go any further. And what I realized is that the Nazca lines are actually the Orion group's territory markings. They're a 3-dimensional star map, pulsar star map of the Orion group's territory markings to ward off other extraterrestrials as to ownership of whose planet this is or was or is, the Orion groups.
Okay, so you're saying the Nazca lines are what they mirror the constellation of Orion? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but you have to be standing behind Orion, looking through the constellation Orion to our sun, Sol, in the middle. And then in the background are Scorpio, Libra, and Virgo, their territory. So what this told me was that they must have time travel in order to travel that vast distance. If you were traveling at the speed of light from Orion's belt, it would take 1,000 years to reach our sun.
What if they've just figured out how to use wormholes?
Well, that's what this is. So they're using wormholes. They're bending space-time, and from this perspective, what their spacecraft are simply time machines. All of them. They're bending space-time. They're time travel. How long does it take them to get from here to there? I have no idea.
Well, it should be no time if it's time travel.
Yeah, right. Is it instantaneous? I don't know. Does it take a few minutes? Does it take an hour? I have no idea. All I know is that from the evidence of the Orion lines being what they are, it tells me that they have faster than light travel.
Okay, so now we've made another leap in logic, yes? So we kind of ran into a wall, and so the solution is, well, then they have time travel.
Well, that's the only logical explanation, coupled with the fact that the Freemasons were gifted something called the Orion Cube. The Orion Cube is a quantum time viewing device, just like the Looking Glass device, except it's much smaller. It's an 8-inch by 8-inch by 8-inch yellow cube, also known as the Yellow Book. The Orion Cube is a quantum time viewing device.
Okay, where are all the? I'm sorry, there are a lot of different devices that you've mentioned, and where are they?
Sure. The Looking Glass device is held at Area 51 S4-2. And you can't move it around because
you're not allowed in Area 51, are you?
No, no one is.
Okay, then how do we know that that's there exactly?
The information leaked out.
Okay, and those people were just assuming are trustworthy sources?
Well, I mean, not trustworthy, but when the information comes out, you have to have other factors plug into it, which is the Orion Cube. Well, the aliens come from Orion. Okay, the Orion Cube is probably real then. So it's coupled with many other things. For example, the Nazi death marches in Nazi Germany in World War II were in the shape of Orion.
Which Orion? From Orion's view to us, or from our view to Orion?
It was an homage to Orion.
Okay.
And what I believe happened in World War II was that the Nazi Holocaust was actually an adrenochrome harvest in trade for technology. They were eating the people in trade for technology, or trading their blood, or trading them children, however they did it in homage to Orion. That's why the Nazi death marches are in the shape of Orion.
So where we're at right now, that I mean, and you're also asking me to accept now that, I mean, basically all of the world leaders and the governments and scientists and, higher ups and generals and everything all around the world have all agreed to stay silent about all of this that happened when it was happening?
Well, yes.
Because I don't know how you would arrange something like that. I mean, if Pizzagate is true and it only took like 2 people for that to spill, how do we keep the whole world quiet?
Well, the evidence is overwhelming. How did the Nazis get their hands on all this UFO technology?
I don't think they did. I don't think they have UFO technology. That's where I would disagree with you.
Okay. Well, I have an hour's worth of video evidence and diagrams and blueprints of them being real.
Okay. And that's all on your website, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So what happened was the Allies invaded, and they were trying to figure out what the hell was going on there. And let me start from the beginning. I mean, World War I, World War II were only designed to stop the spread of communist Russia from getting into the Europe, and communism entering Europe. So the elite funded Germany in both wars. That's how Germany stood up right after World War I. Mm-hmm. They were both funded by Rothschild, and Westinghouse built the railroads, the death camps, Standard Oil, Rockefeller. Without his oil, American oil, the Nazis would have had nothing. So they used Germany in the First World War, very lucrative, and they used Germany as a doorstop to stop the spread of communist Russia. It's logical. It's logic. I mean, there's compassion and logic. That's an evidence. And what came out of World War I was a lot of technology, and disinfectant soap. Soap came out of World War I. Also, penicillin. Things of this nature, technology came out of the war.
Yeah, but I mean, we know how those solutions were found. We understand. I mean, there is the scientific process. We understand where penicillin comes from, right? I mean, it wasn't just beamed down into someone's head. Like, this wasn't a gift from some. Right?
No, I mean,
it's just research and development. That's typically how things work.
Yeah, but during a wartime, it was really going. There was a lot of push to get find out this. There was a lot of through that war came about a lot of great technology.
Oh, sure.
Now, secretly, the elite have been worshiping Orion for thousands of years.
Well, it's not a secret if you know it.
Is it? No, but to most people it is. I mean,
Okay.
this is why I'm not famous yet, because they knew that the aliens come from Orion. They've been worshiping them for thousands of years. This is why my work goes unacknowledged, because they don't want people to find out that aliens come from Orion, which they will eventually. I mean, as soon as I publish my work, which will be in about a month with my book, then, that's it.
And if all of this is true, then we would assume that you would probably disappear, right?
No, I'm still here. I'm still alive.
No, but I mean, after you publish your work and it's out there and say everybody knows about it.
No, they would have killed me already. And for some reason, they haven't yet.
Okay. Maybe that's because there isn't a them. Just spitballing here.
What? A them?
Yeah, maybe
Aliens?
there isn't a. Yeah, I mean, well, all of this, everything that you've been explaining so far. I mean, you not disappearing for exposing all of this would suggest that maybe there isn't anything there.
No, there's too much evidence. There's too much evidence. The evidence is overwhelming. So this is what happened.
Well, maybe we have a different definition of evidence. I think maybe that's what that is.
Can I ask you?
I think that you just haven't looked at the evidence. That's the problem.
Can I ask you
the evidence?
Can I ask you a quick question, Ryushin?
Sure.
If you don't mind. Okay, so before this conversation, I reached out to just a couple folks through social media and said, "Give me some questions for this Ryushin guy." I didn't say your name. I just said a guy that believes in aliens. And
Right.
I was wanting to ask you a couple of them, and hopefully you don't take them the wrong way, because these people don't know you, right?
Oh yeah, that's fine.
And so
Yeah, sure.
like they're not, when they ask these questions, they're not like saying them to Ryushin. They're saying them to me, saying, "Hey, I've got a guy that thought he was abducted by aliens." I didn't get the story right at the time, but anyway.
Well, I wasn't abducted.
Right. That was my misunderstanding. But either
I
way,
was visited.
I was. Step your game up.
Yeah.
There you go.
So one of the questions is, do you have kids?
No children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if any of this is too personal, feel free to correct me and check me on that shit, because I don't mean anything. Another one is, have you reached out for some psychological help? Have you talked to anyone, like a mental health professional, maybe, or a therapist?
Yes.
Did they?
I've actually been. They put me into a hospital 3 times during my work. And as soon as the U.S. government admits that aliens are real, I will sue the daylights out of them for that, for every hour.
Was the reason you were admitted those 3 times, was it because of potential harm to others or yourself?
No, it was more of my work. People were concerned. They were about me speaking about the aliens and all that shit. So,
Is it maybe more a concern of paranoia? Is that what you think it was coming from?
It was their own. Fear of me losing my grip on reality, their own fear of me losing my grip on reality that allowed me to become incarcerated, I guess, hospitalized, which is, absolutely nuts considering my evidence. But
so here's a question. This one's actually from me, and once again, if it's
sure,
none of my damn business, man,
I know it sounds crazy, but I'm as truthful and open as possible because the evidence speaks for itself, and there's nothing I can do about
Ryushin, were you prescribed medication that you're not currently taking by any chance?
No.
Okay.
I take medication, but not I take a antidepressant, but that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been nerve-wracking. I mean, I've been, chasing around aliens, and people are like, "Oh, yeah, sure you have, buddy." I mean, do you have any idea how many? I've written hundreds of thousands of people with my evidence, and no one will write me back. Imagine that.
So
Imagine
I told
that would do to a human being.
Well, I could understand that that's what you were doing, and you're not.
So bad. It's burnt me so bad that it's driven me fucking crazy. I want nothing to do with it. That's how bad it has gotten. I really want nothing to do with it. I'm forced to, because I solved the fucking Nazca lines. So I'm engaged. I have to be a part of it. And I honestly don't want anything to do with it.
And just for the record, man, I want to reiterate. I've talked to therapists as well. I've been on medication before as well. So whenever I'm asking those questions, that's in no way to try to
dude, I
create
totally
a caricature
it's
of
you.
But those are fair. I think they're fair questions.
Oh,
just for anybody.
Question. I defend myself because, well, why was I locked up? Why was I being put in there? Well, this work has driven me fucking nuts. And, I'm, not in a crazy way, it was just a reaction to people ignoring the evidence. And it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and Ryushin, I do want to say that, I understand where you're coming from, that, say, if you put this much time and energy into something and you're putting out, like you said, writing thousands and thousands of people and getting nothing back, I could imagine that'd be really destructive to someone's overall well-being. So I sympathize with you there.
Yeah, especially after finding out that some of these aliens have been eating people.
Okay, yeah. I want to be very clear here, as we're probably getting toward the end of the conversation, I think. I want to be very clear that, at no point was I trying to make it seem like I think you're crazy or that, you're unstable or any of these things. I very much disagree with the conclusions that you've drawn. And I think you've made some leaps in logic that aren't entirely founded. And so that's where the disagreement lies. Not that you're a crazy person. I mean, I've been down the road before. I mean, granted, this is very elementary level compared to what you're talking about, but I went down the ancient aliens path some years ago and went through all of that and came back out the other side thoroughly skeptical of what I once believed. So, I mean, I get how someone who's intelligent can very easily see things this way.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. And that's the way it is, and that's okay. And honestly, I want nothing to do with it after the being ignored like this. It's just been so frustrating. It's been very, very frustrating.
Well, tell you what, I've got another question for you, Robert. How are we on time?
Oh, we're good. We got I guess 10 minutes maybe.
Okay. All right. So Ryushin, here's kind of a closing question. It depends on how far this goes.
Okay.
What's the end game here? What's the purpose? Let's say hypothetically that everything that you've laid out and then some, because we didn't get to cover everything. Let's say that all of this pans out, all of this is shown to be true. What then? What have we solved other than a big gotcha to the elites?
Okay, what you have to understand is what's been happening here. And what's been happening here is that after World War II, when the United States actually lost in Antarctica, they built secret underground railroads in the heart of America in the shape of Orion, identical to the Nazi death marches. And from what I understand, after all the leaks that have happened, is that they were harboring aliens from Orion who were actually living in these secret underground bases that in the heart of America, which happened to line up to the missing 411 map. Do you know the missing 411? Where 1 million people go missing out of the national forests. Well, it just so happens that the secret underground railroads line up perfectly to that map. They were bringing in aliens from Orion to invade us. So Agenda 21, Agenda 30 is real. And I got that information from mostly a leak that happened on December 7th, 2018, when an unprecedented amount of activity was happening at Area 51. They were regaining Area 51, where lizard people were allegedly coming out of the ground. And I was like, holy shit, that's crazy information. Well, 12 days later, a gigantic pyramid-shaped craft appeared above the Pentagon. And on December 19th, 2018, which told me that information was true, that these aliens showed up going, what the fuck are you guys doing, kicking all of us out of there? And they showed up going, hey, what's going on? And we have 3 different perspectives of the craft above the Pentagon. And that also told me that was the all-seeing eye, one, the all-seeing eye on the dollar bills. Yeah, that's them. They're from Orion. That number 2, that allowed me to figure out the ancient Egyptian pyramids, which I believe that they were hydronium producers, which is converting H2O to H3O and using the water as fuel.
Okay, so that's what they wait. Let me just get a clarifier here. So that's what they want with our planet. They want water. Is that? No,
that was just what the pyramids were for. Now, what were they doing here? Well, the climate has been changing. It turns out that they've been eating children. And eating people. We have bodies. We have 3 different bodies who have been, they call it mutilations. So cattle mutilation and human mutilation. We have 3 different human beings who have been mutilated. Numerous amounts of stories of there being human mutilations.
Okay, so I figured out, food source, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Okay,
so just a quick question.
Yes.
Because we're going all over the place again. I want to just nail down a couple of things.
I mean, I'm not all over the place. I'm just trying to explain where we are headed and why we're here. It's important to understand the past to understand the present moment. What happened in the past? Well, aliens came here a long time ago and created us. And then this is the origin of human sacrifice and why they were doing human sacrifice, adrenochrome. That's the whole key to this whole thing that connects the elite to the aliens. What is it? It's adrenochrome. That's how the elite figured out, and knew about adrenochrome. The aliens showed them. Now, what are the aliens doing here? They were going to invade us. And that's what was going to happen. And they were living in these underground bases. And these elite were feeding them children or human beings for either trade for technology and power. until Trump got into office, until Pizzagate happened, which relinquished control over the temporal time viewing device. Having that technology, temporal time viewing, allowed the good guys to regain footing over the problem. And it's very tricky, it's very complicated, but I believe that they had to bring the aliens in here in order to use the quantum time viewing device against them. And, only time will tell if I'm right or not, which I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty positively sure I'm right because of all the evidence. Since 2000, since this year, underground earthquakes at the identical locations of these underground bases aligning perfectly.
Ryushin, you're going deep in the paint, brother.
I know. I'm trying to get back out of it.
No, it's okay.
Well, here's what I want to throw out just really quick. I'm going to throw this out there. So if the aliens are in fact time travelers, what is the point of all of this craziness that they're pulling off here right now? I mean, why not just go back to the first, 10,000 breeding pairs of human beings and just isolate them on an island and keep them there and do what they want with us? I mean, it seems like they've set themselves up for potential failure by. Looks like they really fumbled this whole thing up, and if they're time travelers, there's just no excuse for that. I mean, if I was a time traveler, I would imagine that I'd be sitting really pretty right now. I don't think I would have any mistakes on my record.
There's two opposing forces to this. There's a positive and a negative. They're positive beings who are trying to help us, and there's negative beings who have been, coming here and eating us. So it's extremely complex, and they call it politics, and that's what it is. It's politics.
Do you think that your Buddhist meditation and
had something to do with this?
To one degree, do you think that it gave you some amount of superior intellect? The accomplishments that you've made in mindfulness and meditation and Zen.
Yes,
I had that feeling, and that's why I wanted to confirm it first. So, suppose I pick a religion, any religion.
Hinduism.
All right. Suppose I was into Hinduism very deeply, and I believed that it made me smarter than you. But I also believed in things that you thought sounded a little crazy to you. Do you recognize that I would be in a situation where you couldn't prove me wrong even if I am?
Well, it's not about proving you wrong or right. It's about what is true. Is it true to you or not?
But hold on. Even if it's very true to me, if I believe that I have a superior intellect, don't you see that might limit my ability to be a little bit skeptical of my own judgment?
Well, I mean, did it increase the level of intelligence for me by sitting meditation? It's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of the practice. What was the practice? What was I doing? Well, I was studying the functionality of my mind. No one could do that except for me. And watching over my mind and watching it, the way it functions.
I understand, but do you understand that if or would you agree? I'll rephrase it. Would you agree that if I thought I was smarter than you, then I wouldn't be able to use you as a way to check the validity of what I thought was real? Because I don't think you're intelligent enough to be able to correct me. So that don't you think that in a way, even though I would be super intelligent from my Hindu practices, it would come with a high price because there would be no way to know if I'm really...
That has nothing to do with this. And what is this? This is about asking yourself the question, is this true or not? Is this true or not? Is the evidence true or not? That's up to you. I'm just supplying the evidence.
You can't falsify this.
I'm not saying I'm smarter than you.
Right. Okay.
Because of my sitting meditation, how the hell am I supposed to know that made me smarter than you? I don't know.
Right.
All I know is from what I experienced. Did meditation make me a smarter human being? Yes. I can equivocally say yes, it has. How do I know? Because it allowed me to sit down, shut the fuck up, and study the functionality of my mind.
Right, and I don't mean to.
Did that make me smarter or not? I would imagine it did, considering that it takes patience, time, and asking yourself is this true or not, in order to reach logical conclusions.
And Ryushin, just to be clear, don't paint me with the brush of accusing you of being arrogant by any means. I wanted to present like a possibility
I can be an
that
asshole.
we all can, but I just wanted to present you with the possibility that maybe you don't have the same self-correcting measures based on your opinion of the advantages that you've gotten from Buddhism.
I'm always right because I'm enlightened. That's
not my accusation. I just wanted to present that to you and see if
that's fine. I mean, that's up to you. You know, I mean, basically anything, religion, anything that you do, does it make you a better person to other human beings? That's what you should be asking yourself. Does it make you, does your religion make you a better person, or not religion, make you a better person to other human beings? That's the point of religion. Not, oh, my God's bigger than yours, or it made me smarter, so therefore I'm right. No. Religion, anything that you do, does it make you a better person to other human beings? And I think that's it.
Well, that's something I can agree with. I'm going to say that out of everything that you've said so far, that is one thing that I can agree with, is that whatever it is that you're doing, is it making you a better person to others? And that I think
it's the key to being, it's the golden rule.
In addition to Beliefs That Blind, you can also find Skeptic Bret at Atheist on High, and all of Ryushin's content is on theorionlines.com. All that in today's show notes. Guys, thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you
so much, Robert. Thanks, Ryushin.
You will.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find.
Thank you to Ryushin and Bret. Thank you to Dave Blair at DaveBlairMusic.com. Thank you to our patrons, Alan Marks, Bernard Lamberell, Enema Man, Freethinker 215, Larry Wilson, Patrick Walsh, Tara, Phil Calderon, Philip Spawn, Gregoria, and Rob Montgomery. You can support this broadcast at patreon.com/right and learn more at therighttoreason.com. Next week, we'll be talking to a physicist, a therapist, and a nurse currently treating COVID-19 patients. Between now and then, remember that you have the right to reason.
We are all aliens.
I am an illegal alien.
I want to believe in the right to reason.
Hey, it's Brent Lee from Unapologetics reminding you that aliens are watching us.
We've all been touched by an alien.
Don't let the Secular Soup podcast be alien to your podcasting options.
You have the right to reason.
Tienes el derecho a razonar acerca de abducciones extraterrestres.
I love aliens. Humans are pretty terrible.
The right to